Welcome to this Epicure tutorial, Datab Part 2. In the previous example, we created a study scenario where study subjects were followed between ages 50 and 80. We created 5-year age categories and counted the person time and events in each strata. We then calculated the event rate in each strata. In this tutorial, we'll use the Datab module in Epicure to create a person-year table with the same data. Datab starts with individual records and accumulates person-year time into defined strata and also counts the number of events in each strata. The processing sequence generally goes in the following order. First, we define variable names that represent the values for the individual records. These variable names are often in an external file. If there is a header line in that file, the variable names can be read using the useText command. If the variables need to be explicitly created, the names command is used. Once the variables are defined, Datab needs to know what they represent. This may include birth dates, death dates, whether the person suffers an event at exit, etc. A timescale, often with strata within that timescale, are defined. The event or case variable needs to be indicated. Once these definitions are created, we read the data using the input command. Datab then reads each record in turn, accumulates person time into the defined strata, and counts events that occur within the valid time range. Datab will automatically left and right censor person time that occurs outside of the defined time range. At the end of the process, a person-year table is created. Variables that appear in the individual records may not appear in the person-year table. For example, ID number will not appear in the person-year table as each record will be the aggregate person time from individuals into a particular strata. Each record in the output table will represent a unique strata, the person time in that strata, the count of events in that strata, and any other variables defined to be included, for example, average age within that strata. Before we show how our example can be coded in Datab, one additional point must be discussed. Datab understands calendar time and calculates age from the birth date. In our example, we simply need age in and age out without the need for specific calendar dates, birth dates, or death dates. Therefore, we'll introduce a new command called duration. The duration command creates time categories on an arbitrary timescale defined by the values used in the entry and exit commands. For example, you might want categories for each week in an animal study, or for each hour in a study lasting a number of days. In our example, it will be 5-year age categories between ages 50 and 80. Let's see how this would look within Epicure. Here is the Epicure window. The blue window above is the log window and echoes all commands. The white window is the scripting window where commands can be highlighted and executed. The bottom text box allows commands to be typed in ad hoc. We begin by telling Epicure that we are starting a Datab session. This clears the memory and tells Epicure that we'll be reading individual records and creating a person-year table. We begin by telling Datab which variables are included in the individual records. They include ID, age in, age out, and case. In this example, we will use the names command to define these variables. Next, we will define a timescale. As we will not be using birth dates and calendar dates, we can use the duration command. The variable name for the time categories will be AgeCat. The syntax to define the 6 categories is 50, parentheses 5 to indicate 5-year cut points, and 80. All commands are terminated with the ampersand symbol. The duration command works in conjunction with the entry and exit commands. We will use the variables ageIn and ageOut for these commands respectively. The event command tells Datab whether an individual exited the study with or without an event of interest. This value is 1 or 0, and we use our case variable to assign this value. Datab now has sufficient information to process the individual records that contain the 4 variables defined in the names command. The individual records are often in an external text file, but for this example, we will type them in using the input command. Here are the 6 records. Note that they represent the study subjects on the graphic. When we execute the input command, Datab reads each record, determines which strata the person years should be accumulated within, and also counts the number of cases that occur within each strata. At the end of the process, the list of variables within Datab changes. There is no longer an ID variable, an ageIn or ageOut variable. Instead, there is an AgeCat variable, a PYR variable that contains the accumulated person years, and a case variable that is the total number of cases in each strata. There are also some variables that Datab creates automatically. Note that the AgeCat variable is categorical. Let's explore the data in the new person year table. First, we sum up the cases and person years. Note there are 3 cases, and the maximum number of cases in any strata is 2. The total number of person years is 113. Let's take a look at the number of person years and stratify this by AgeCat. Note that the totals match the graphic. We would like to calculate the event rate in each category. To do that, we use the transformation command to create a new variable called rate, that is the number of cases divided by the person years. If we examine the rate by age category, we see that the values match our graphic. Finally, let's save the person year table as a text file named tutorial underbar 2 underbar tab.csv using the data command, and a binary file with the same data using the save command. If we examine the CSV file using any text editor, we see there is a header line that lists the variable names. Then there are 6 records. Coincidentally, there were 6 records in the input file, but these are no longer individual records. Instead, they represent the 6 unique strata identified by the AgeCat variable. Each record also contains the number of person years and the number of cases in that strata. The file also includes the rate variable that we calculated. This concludes this Epicure tutorial, Datab Part 2. Please visit us at herosoft.com where you can ask questions and get answers on how to use Datab and other Epicure modules.